All right, everybody. So just a reminder, what do we say here at Smite Night? It ain't a Smite stream if there isn't any technical difficulties. So Kaizo, please fill everyone in on what we've just witnessed as First Blood has gone the way of Hati.
Yeah, man, mid and jungle rotation from Hati directly onto Hanula on this Freya. You got to put her down early, and they did exactly that. They took her life and her purple buff, which, you know, just insult to injury. That just hurts even more.
Yeah, putting down this Freya, of course, like you did mention, but nobody saw it, so I'm going to steal it. Putting down Freya early on, always fantastic, but the Discordia not feeling so fantastic as they fall extremely low health. Do throw out that golden apple of Discord, but the real Nemesis and Albi still swinging, but not finding the shots. Alice Antoinette, with the smallest amount of health, gets an extra magic shell pop through. And now the rotation comes in from the rest of the team. Saria and Hanula to peel for their mid laner with Eddie G on scene. It looks like it's a bit of a wash, but getting away with the smallest amounts of health there was the mid laner for Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
Yeah, they're not done quite yet, though. They want Hanula again, but a good Valkyrie's Discretion. There's big damage onto Albi. That's going to take his life. Nemesis gets banished as well. Meanwhile, Zenphius takes one out, so it is a 1-for-2 as Hanula claps back on him with 2 kills to 0.
All right, well, good thing we got that First Blood out of the way, because we got second, third, and fourth right on after it. And also a blue buff invade. Looks like it was intercepted by Grinkeeper. Looks like Tilly GB managed to secure their own blue buff, of course. Always a bit of a win as part of your solo lane. You do not want to be giving up that blue buff for free, but going for a speed buff invade is Soap feeling themselves really early on here, trying to get aggressive, but not able to, as Saria somehow smelled that one out. I tell you, if I wouldn't have that support, I don't go there. You don't go with your jungler to speed buff in that situation, but, you know, it's worked out overall. So, a lightning fast start we got here.
Yeah, definitely, which is not at all what you'd expect from... I mean, you can even look at the builds that these players have. We've got Thebes for both supports, Warlock staffs for both mid laners, and a stacking item for X-Ball. That doesn't exactly scream early
dive between tier 2 and tier 1.
Albi loves it anyway.
Hanula whooped him into the sky for Albi and will not find the kill by virtue of that Defender of Olympus from Saria. Already, like I said, lightning fast start. Not really what you would expect from these gods, from these builds, but, you know, this is what we're having. I think, Kaiser, they might know that they're being streamed, and they decided to turn the entertainment dial up just a little bit.
Yeah, turn it up to 11, man. I'll be coming from behind the tower on Hanula there. I mean, they didn't get the second kill on her, but by God, man, like, have some patience. Just diving straight through, doesn't even care that the Athena ult's coming. That's going to put him quite far behind, though, is the only problem. That is a high execution, low reward, high risk play. And now Zenphius 1v2 on this red buff invade.
Oh my God, Hanula and this Freya going absolutely insane, but gets abducted into the rest of the home sweet home damage. But Zenphius cannot escape from the Valkyrie's Discretion as the real Nemesis feels the damage coming out from Hanula. But Soap Feeling will clean up, get the shutdown onto Hanula with Eddie G picking it up. What is going on this map right now? Have we loaded into a conquest game and this is an arena queue?
The players might be confused, but I think that the only thing that is clear here is that they do not want this Freya getting ahead. But in their best efforts, I think they've done everything in their power to put this Freya ahead, have Hati. I mean, you have fed her 5 kills to this point, and after you get her First Blood, and after you put her down at the start, just turning around and giving her all the farm in the world, that's going to be a big problem. And actually, Expo might have some problems on the left side here.
Eddie G finds the flank. Can't find the ring around the Rosie, though. Will get hit by that Rising Jaguar and Poison Dart combination. Eddie G low health. No manas. Well, can Albi find the last shot? No, they cannot. As Hanula shows up to fire more and more damage into Albi, who's juking, who's ducking and weaving, but will fall down despite all of their best efforts. And Saria with the 2-man taunt to save the life of Hanula. This feels like a game being played before the 9.5 patch, because these kills are just going down so fast.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about on the desk, where Freya is an issue late game, and then, by the way, if she gets a ring, she can just kill you. And that is exactly what Hanula is doing. It took, what, 5 gun balls, maybe 6, in order to 100% kill Albi on the X-Ball? This is getting ridiculous, and now Hati still looking for this red buff invade, but they don't have the numbers for it, so they're gonna have to back up. They're not getting anything anymore.
Well, 10 kills in 8.5 minutes, and we might not be done there as Real Nemesis gets taunted in, whooped up into the sky. Already G's damage output. Real Nemesis will get the Scouts blasting on themselves, and Zenfius with a home sweet home onto 3 members. But there again is Hanula with that Valkyrie's discretion through the sky. Will take down Real Nemesis. Now picks up their 7th kill as they make another rotation all the way to the middle lane. We just skipped the laning phase right now. And let's try to reel it back in here. And as much as this is complete chaos and amazing fun to watch, Kaizo, if this game gets out of hand, gets into this sort of scrappy engagement, which team, which composition would you say that benefits?
Man, it's close because, like I said, both of these teams just want to go late game, but I guess I would have to favor the team with the Discordia. You know, like Baba Yaga does the crazy like Ooga Booga damage with the house late game, but Discordia passive is always going to get better with time. But so does X-Ball passive. I don't know, man. It is just about even. And speaking of just about even, by the way, even with all the fighting we have, even with 8 kills to 3, it is 12 gold separating these two teams. Hanula can kill anybody he wants on Hati, and yet the game is still even, which is just bonkers to me.
What is going on? We see Hanula and Albi brawling it out there, this dual lane. I don't think they got the memo that they're supposed to wait for late game, and they just decided late game carry means all game carry, so they're going to push on forward, duking it out. Both supports have had to come back over like some concerned parents asking, what the hell is going on over here? I'll leave you alone for 2 minutes and you kill each other 3 times. But we'll have to try to wait and see if this game is slowed down.
Parents, if that's what's happening in the house when they're gone.
I mean, yeah, if your kids are killing each other, you maybe need to step in at least once. But as you said, it's very even in golden experience because, of course, these kills not actually worth that much, despite being insane. A 7-2-1 slash line is a good scoreline to finish the game with, and Hanula's just gonna barely start. You know, we're 10 minutes in, we still had more kills than minutes passed by. The solo lane's actually been relatively quiet, but Eddie G not very quiet as they have to get up into the Cosmos and have to retreat as Sari dunks down with that Defender of Olympus to peel for their jungler against this Athena, already paying off twice, saving the life of their team. But hold on, dual lane, I'll be getting smacked down and will be finished off by that Valkyrie's discretion. Right side of the jungle, engagement sort of petering out. This is just chaos.
I'm sorry, did Discordia jump in the middle of 3 people and then calmly walk away with her life? Am I seeing that correctly?
I think so.
I don't know what kind of read Hati had on that situation, what kind of ward coverage they thought that they lacked even with vision on back camps, but I feel like with 3 people, you are more than equipped to kill a Discordia. But instead, they're going to let her go, and now it's going to be Eddie G chasing around Stopefielin. That's the kill on the right side after we saw Freya dive tower and left. It is a madhouse in this game, and it's only 900 gold separating them.
A complete madhouse. I think you've summed it up perfectly there with just that one phrase. Grinkeeper falls down on the right-hand side. Where do I look? Where do I watch? I don't understand where I'm supposed to be looking, because every time I look away, Hanula gets a kill. And every time I stop watching the junglers, there's kills there as well. This is the most action-packed start I've ever seen to a game of Smite, especially after the 9.5 patch. Saria now going 1-on-2, and we'll be losing that battle, but we'll feel safe enough to dash on out of there. But Kaizo, if you take a moment to just peek around at the builds or anything, are you noticing anything unusual?
Yeah, let's take a deep breath, man, and try to just relax for a second. Discordia does not go for the Warlock staff. I was incorrect about that. We'll see in the background a gank onto Xenophius here, and that should be more than enough to, there we go, put down the Baba Yaga. As another gank on the left lane. I'm desperately trying to talk about these builds, but here's an Athena ult.
They're not going to have it because a whoop into the sky puts Soapfeeling in some danger. Now I'll be on the retreat, but Saria catches with a confound onto Soapfeeling. Valkyrie's discretion somehow doesn't result in a kill. So Soapfeeling will get out of there alive. Still ever so present on getting aggressive on the map. And speaking of aggressive, Eddie G getting aggressive in the enemy jungle steals away a speed buff. Captain Tsubasa and his friends playing relentlessly right now.
Okay, we're just gonna have to talk faster. E-Staff, Discordia, not usual, different. There we go. There's my analysis. Now we can watch the
important.
fight.
Yeah, okay, so the fight seems to begin anew as TillyGB spots out Grinkeeper in their jungle, but can't seem to close the distance. I don't want to drop this because I feel like fireworks might just go off. There's the Ducks, the Knights to try to lock this down. The Abduct comes through. It's going to be a long, drawn-out kill if they're to get it, but Grinkeeper healing up already quite a lot with that Soul Eater finished up. Soap feeling sure as well, just for fun. So is Zenpheus, for some reason, just decided to take a walk over to the right lane. There's a 2v2 going on. Double confound. TillyGB and Real Nemesis low health. TillyGB gets the Lawbringer on out of there. Grinkeeper full health. Has sustained up completely. Still wandering over here. Zenpheus trying to find something, like some sort of pick, some damage. But we'll just run into Alice Antoinette on Discordia. And, oh man, Kaiser, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Not recently, no. I mean, you keep referring back to the 9.5 patch. It's been a while since we've seen this kind of just butting heads from minute one. And it's been a while since we've seen this tier build. I think that we're all very familiar with what this is supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is the go fast and, lots of gas tier build, we'll say that, where you just run around the map and you're a menace and nobody can ever catch up to you. But I don't think that it's really good anymore. I mean, movement speed DRing in a certain way doesn't make this a very viable option. Wingblade doesn't get a whole lot of value against Captain Tsubasa's team, but maybe he knows something I don't. I mean, these players are playing a different kind of game than I usually do.
Yeah, this is certainly unusual, and Zenpheus will get revived by that Scarab's Blessing, but the chase doesn't end there, because Eddie G finds an angle for Hanula to pick up the kill. Real Nemesis, body blocked in by 4 members. It's not used to see 4 members in one place, even at the 15-minute mark, but that's a killing spree for Eddie G as the Goal Fury gets targeted out.
I've never seen this kind of coordinated team play from a team pretty much ever, except for like the SCC caliber rosters that I'm accustomed to watching. Like the sheer amount of grouping up that Captain Tsubasa's team is doing, the very calculated, this is the person we're killing, here's how we're going to do it. I mean, we've seen some mechanical errors, we've seen some CC that avoided some damage, you know, a whoop here and there that might have prevented some damage follow-up, but they are truly operating on one brain as a hive mind right now, and I mean, it is starting to take its effect. Like we said, it was very even despite the kills until it wasn't, and now Captain Tsubasa's team very clearly finding the farm after the fight that Hati hasn't had the opportunity to do. And now with our first objective off the map, I can only assume this sort of team play is going to become even more rewarding for them as the game goes on.
Well, we'll have to try to see if Hati can find any sort of angle back in. Of course, having a fast start does sometimes leave you susceptible to getting a bit overzealous. You know, these towers still scale the same way. They do a lot of damage. Pyromancer and Fire Giant, not the easiest objectives to take when you are, you know, not quite as high level, or maybe as far into your build as you would expect to be. But Eddie G takes a lot of damage from Soap Feeling. Might look to chase this down. 2-level deficit. Can't find the Volcanic Lightning, though. And the Defender of Olympus comes out anyway, which might have kept Eddie G alive. And that's just how it's going for Hati right now. You know, they try to make something happen. It's just not working out for them.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier, they had such a good start. Like, very clearly wanted to pressure this dual lane side. They killed Freya early, they looked for the red buff invades, but Captain Tsubasa and his friends were very ready to just defend all of that. And now you're at the point where you had a plan, it didn't work, you need your backup plan now. And Hati just don't seem to have that backup plan ready and available. They seem to be making it up on their feet. Meanwhile, Hanula's just killing people. Like, you need to be faster at thinking through this.
Now, Real Nevis is caught in a bad spot and gets taken down by Eddie G. TillyGB having to retreat, jukes out the confound very nicely there, but that's about the only thing that's gone well for Hati since that first blood. Soap Feeling just has to watch as their jungle gets taken away, but if you are Hati, Kaiser, where's the win condition right now? What are you hoping to happen?
Your win condition is you've got to steal away this big objective. You can't really fight them around the Fire Giant pit. TillyGB is going to do his best to try to look at it, but this is going down in the favor of Captain Tsubasa. You're going to need to take an advantageous fight on the back end of an objective and then try to transform that into something else. You cannot fight Captain Tsubasa's team head-to-head at this point in the game. You need them at some kind of disadvantage, and I mean, with how clean they're playing, I'm just not really sure how many disadvantageous positions they're going to be putting themselves in.
Well, speaking of disadvantageous position, Soap feeling
Oh my
getting
God.
shot with multiple gumballs. There is the Valkyrie's discretion forces out. That volcanic lightning will keep Soap feeling alive yet again. But these lives feel like deaths despite staying alive through it. You still have to back all the way to base, miss out on even more farm. We see Grinkeeper still lurking in the opposing jungles, taking away all these small camps. Their obelisk being drained for all the milk it has. And Halduro finds another angle onto Albi, finds one, finds two, will not find any more, but they will find a purple buff.
Yeah, and I want to point out very specifically Hanula's 4-level lead here. Let's not forget that levels in Smite go up in XP as you go along, so that means even more now as Rat dunks down onto Soap, feeling there's going to be some damage, whooped up into the air, put back down. There's a nice shell to keep her alive, so they will live for the time being, but 3-level lead on Hanula, the damage she is doing is just astronomically different than what Albi's able to put out right now. Even if he gets that Executioner, Kinsai, whatever it's going to be, still leaps and bounds behind his opposition here.
Oh, Xemphius gets taunted in. There's the beads and the Aegis. Golden Apple of Discord, though, will cripple that Baba Yaga. But Real Nemesis with the Scarab's Blessing in the perfect timing there was prepared for that one. And it looks like Hanula putting out tons of damage, but 4th highest damage is Albi on the Shibboleth, but half as much damage almost as the opposing solo laner Grinkeeper, silently walking around this map, smacking people in the face. And it's just going to get worse as Achilles scales forward. A double confound into that. Oh my God, it keeps going further forward. Eddie G, please slow it down. There's too many stars on Captain Tsubasa for me to shine a light on anyone in particular. As Grinkeeper blinks on in, Xemphius now tries to get the blast off, cannot do it. Alice Antoinette shuts down that Baba Yaga. The confound continues on forward into the tier 2 tower in this middle lane, and Captain Tsubasa dive forward. They take down a tier 1 tower in the middle lane. They take down most of the enemy team. Surely they got to be looking for Fire Giant soon.
Yeah, they're definitely turning their scopes this way, and we'll actually go ahead and start pulling this. You don't really even get to contest this anymore as Hati. All of your people that can really steal this effectively don't have the tools they need. Tyr is here, but he does have the blink available, so could make something happen, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, hold on, Tyr on the way. Fire Giant low health, doesn't decide to commit in. Would have been a very, very low percentage play, so understandably. But, you know, I wanted to see fireworks. I wanted that Tyr blinking in and just going for whatever.
Had enough, man? Come on. Like, this has been the most exciting game I've watched.
I need more. The viewers deserve more. This is Smite night. This isn't Smite daytime like it is for you and NA. We are rocking this evening as we go through. But Hati managed to take down an objective. They actually take the Oni Fury, as Hanula, not feeling happy about that, gives chase to Albi. Caught in a bit of a split position, though. All the rest of Hati. There's Xemphius firing off. Has to blast off out of there. A nice route onto Albi. A lot of damage coming up from Alice Antoinette. Golden Apple Discord will not connect. That pumpkin sails on out into the distance. TiLiGB being pushed under their tier 2 tower, but hasn't had the worst time of it on this tier. Probably the only god not to fall down to Freya.
Yeah, now you're looking at your siege defense if you're Hati, which isn't the worst. I mean, Baba Yaga's not my first pick, but also not my last pick for a siege defense. It's very difficult to get to her and kill her effectively if she's sitting in a structure, but that wave clear is kind of RNG based. If you get the wrong shape, it can be kind of weird to clear. So Captain Tsubasa really need to be grouping up and taking down these structures, but they want more blood. They have not had their fill yet, and Hanula's going to get some on the left side.
By the way, Hanula picked up a kill if you didn't see, because that just is how it goes at the moment. TiLiGB doesn't connect with the Fearless because the Abduct pulls it out of the way. Grinkeeper will take a tower shot. Like I said, will not be too far into their build, or maybe not as far as they might be expecting at this point, although they are very, very high up in gold. So taking a lot of damage from this tier 2. Gets the stun to Soapfield, though, who's very low. Gets the Scarab's Blessing, gets caught by the final shot of that Strife coming through. So a bit of a lucky revive coming through as TiLiGB fends off 2 at this Phoenix, as Hanula has barely left this lane except to get a few more kills. This left side Phoenix, though, under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and there's a blink in from Grinkeeper. Immediately gets grabbed, and now Pele comes in with the knockup. They're going to control Grinkeeper all the way to the back. We'll have to exit on the backside. That's a big whoop. That's going to grab 2. Valkyrie's discretion to return some damage. Grinkeeper still finds Nemesis before he gets taken down by Albi. Now TiLiGB running away from the gumballs does have the distance, but Xemphius has to Aegis on the other hand in order to live through that one.
I'll be the last man standing over here as Eddie G dives the Titan room to pick up another kill on this Ratatoskr. This left side Phoenix still under more and more pressure with this Fire Giant buff still here. Of course, Albi trying to zone away the enemy as Eddie G is caught inside this area, but manages to take just one Phoenix shot and will dash on out of there. TillyGB looking for an angle to get maybe a hero fearless right now, but Captain Tsubasa and his friends just playing at such a pace and Hati cannot handle it.
Yeah, I don't know about that, though, because the pace that they're playing at isn't really turning up very many dividends anymore. They've kind of run into a wall here where you have Freya as your ADC. Look at the damage she does to towers. She doesn't. That's going to make this siege significantly more difficult for them. You're going to have to get Greenkeeper, you're going to have to get Eddie to start whacking these towers down, whacking these Phoenixes down.
Oh,
it is not easy for you anymore. This is the stage of the game where Freya really starts to struggle, and I know I say that with a grain of salt considering it's level 20 Freya, but she just doesn't take structures, man, and Hati know that, so they're grouping up around these structures and mounted a very strong defense on the Phoenixes, and now actually trying to chase out and get a little bit of pit vision here around this Fire Giant.
I don't think I've ever seen a 22,000 experience lead. That is absolutely massive. But Hati take down the Pyromancer. They get another cheap objective as the Fire Giant's still not ready to spawn. It'll take about 30 seconds. And Hati all locked up to back to base, or at least some of them, will be looking to contest this Fire Giant, of course, because they just sort of gave up the previous one. But I'm not sure that's the best call. You know, maybe they're better off just giving this one up.
I would tend to agree. It's not EFG, and it's not even a spot where you can just wait for it. 5 more minutes is a very long time in Smite. That gives you plenty of time to farm back up. And without it, I just don't know what their siege plan is going to be. Like, we saw their best attempt, I could assume, on the previous siege, where they kind of butted heads into the towers. Like, I'm not going to pretend that they didn't kill people in the structures, but what was left over after the kills happened wasn't enough to take these structures down. So they're going to have to change up their game plan, maybe play a little bit more conservatively. We usually see these Athena teams focusing specifically around the taunts, and we haven't seen a whole lot of that from the Order side here, as Alice Antoinette by herself.
Oh, caught completely alone. Does have a good Aegis Amulet. Soap Feeling will fall down, but will be revived. And that's a very clean pick, but can they get out? Because Eddie G on scene. Soap Feeling will speed on out of there, but will fall down to Grinkeeper. As now the rest of Hati get chased down. Grinkeeper tries to find the second Fatal Strike. Not in the range, though. As Grinkeeper low health falls down to TillyGB. I'll be there putting out a ton of damage on this Xbalanque. But Freya's on the way. Handula makes the rotation. Had been split pushing in the left-hand side of the map, but will not get here in time. And Captain Tsubasa and his friends take a bit of a bloody nose there.
Yeah, and that is definitely what Hati needed here, is to just stall a little bit longer and try to get some items online. Because you have, like we said all game, this is a late game team versus a late game team. And you will eventually get to the point where they will fight on even footing regardless of what the game has been up until this point. We're approaching that point. We're not at that point yet. You can still see level 19 for 2 members of Hati, level 17, level 14 for the support, so still hasn't gotten that upgraded starter item just quite yet. Gold still matters, XP still matters, but it's only for a short while longer. If they can stall out this game, if they can keep it about at the same game state that it is right now for the next 5 to 6 minutes, Hati have an opportunity to fight back into this game. And they're proving that Captain Tsubasa and his friends, they're bleeding. They have opportunities where they aren't playing completely cleanly. Alice Antoinette caught out in the mid lane, diving a little bit too far in the left-hand Phoenix. There are opportunities to be capitalized on. Hati just need to continue to find them and do their best to make use of them.
What you don't want to be happening is all be getting picked off early on in this engagement. Eddie G goes up through the cosmos. I'll be surely the target. This Ratatoskr very frighteningly gazes down upon Albi. Dunks on top. There's the Scarab's Blessing, though. Will revive this Xbalanque, who can now start swinging back right into the Fatal Strike from Grinkeeper, but not on the mark as Real Nemesis falls down low. Eddie G trying to pick off TillyGB, who still stays on alive. Now, after all this aggression from Captain Tsubasa's friend, all members of Hati still are up, and that's a lot of ultimates expended on both sides, but Fire Giant might still go the way of Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
Yeah, that just favors out Captain Tsubasa so much. I mean, Pele ult's still available for Hati, but that doesn't really matter around a Fire Giant fight quite like this. No one has their resources, so the team that's ahead is always favored. We'll see what Hati can do.
Eddie G, low health, Fire Giant, very low health. TillaGB on scene. It's just Hanula and Saria, and they don't do a lot of damage between the two of them. This Fire Giant's still standing. Captain Tsubasa's friends do manage to secure, but how does the fight go afterwards? Hanula goes up into the Valkyrie's discretion, tries to find whatever damage they can, but retreating out are the rest of the members of Hati. I'll be swinging, but Zemphia's caught out. Beads and Aegis again from the Baba Yaga, but Grinkeeper will pick up that kill. There's for now 5 members with Fire Giant bearing down this right side Phoenix as through the cosmos comes Eddie G. Whooped into the skies, the real nemesis who cannot escape as they do fall down to the unstoppable Hanula. Albi though gets hit with a confound, gets taunted in, but is still just about alive. Saria very low health, but the magic shell keeps them alive. Alice Antoinette gives chase, but they might have done it here.
Yeah, they very well may have. They've broken the base, if nothing else, as Hanula matches the 13th kill on this Freya. Only 2 deaths to speak of, as they do manage to take down this right-hand Phoenix. Athena will ult back in to just be sure of it, and they have the chance to look for the Titan here.
There's still 10 seconds on the real nemesis. Grinkeeper pushes in first. Hanula's trying to put out whatever damage they can. Soap feeling with the purification beads on the whoop to keep themselves alive. Mid-Phoenix being the call instead. They've decided the end call is maybe a bit too ambitious. And this mid-Phoenix, again, very slowly going down. But it doesn't seem to really matter. Hati just can't seem to get into this fight quickly enough. Now the left side Phoenix under siege from Eddie. Soap feeling takes a few shots. Alice Antoinette, though, with a nice root. I think it's gonna be a dead Phoenix, and Hati, no response available. And now Captain Tsubasa's friends can take all the time they need because they've basically broken all of the bases. A pause comes right on through before this golden apple of Discord shoots out.
Yeah, and that's just really unfortunate timing for the Nemesis. You can see on screen DC'd some point during the backside of that fight. That wasn't one that was going to be pretty. It wasn't going to be clean, but I feel like with all 5 members available, Hati had the opportunity to at least try to mount a defense there, but instead, Captain Tsubasa sweeping through all 3 Phoenixes. If you don't know what the stats are on winning a game with all 3 Phoenixes down, I'll spare you the numbers, but it ain't pretty, so gonna need to pull out some miracles here that we haven't seen up until this point.
Yeah, they do have this late game team, as we've discussed, but it's just not really come online early enough for them. Like, it might finally be hitting that point, but with all 3 Phoenixes down, there's almost no way back. You know, even if you win a fight, you can't leave the Titan room because you have to deal with all the fire minions coming through. So it's not going to be a clear path into, you know, back into this game for Hati. But, Kaizo, if Hati are to win this, we're going to be in for the long haul, so I hope you all got your popcorn ready, because this might be a very long storming game if Hati had to pull anything through. But, you know, you just got to give a lot of credit to Captain Tsubasa and his friends. They have played this one not quite perfectly, but certainly fantastically.
No, and I think that you put that about as well as you possibly can. There have been moments from Captain Tsubasa and his friends that have risen question marks into the field of view, right? Where you have Alice Antoinette caught under the tower. You've got that left Phoenix dive that was a little bit sketchy. That very early gank onto Hanula that could have spelt death for them, but every single time that Hati have gotten something good, they've just immediately thrown it away on the backside. Like, you have Albi diving towers. I mean, that might work in your casual games, but this is a structured competitive setting. You can't be diving 1v2 into basically an even matchup, especially not with an Athena ult coming through. Just not the cleanest play from Hati. Definitely some shining moments, though. They have fought their way tooth and nail back into a game up until this point that has been winnable. We'll say that. It hasn't been great, but it's been winnable. And now Captain Tsubasa and his friends grouping up here, they don't care about the next Fire Giant. They just want to go for the end.
Alright, they do still have Fire Giant buff ready, of course, so we are getting ready for the final butt of heads. This is the Hati's last stand. Let's see what they can put together. Grinkeeper taking a little bit of early poke. Almost all ultimates available on the map. It's just the real nemesis with that Scarab's Blessing, which has now ticked on through. This is a full-on 5v5 headbutt in the Titan room. Saria already getting aggressive to Teal Real Nemesis, who falls down at the beginning of this fight. Grinkeeper zones away the backline as coming through the cosmos comes Eddie G, dunking down onto Soap Feeling, who's putting out whatever damage they can, but it will not be enough to find any picks, and Albi falls down yet again to Hanula, who dives forward onto the Baba Yaga. Titan low health, by the way, and they will then turn their focus to take this game down in 31 minutes. Captain Tsubasa put on a full octane, high octane, action-packed game and come away the winners.
Yeah, if you weren't on the edge of your seat there, you need to get a shorter chair, because that is about as good of a game as you're going to see from a game of Smite. It had action, it had back and forth, at least for the first 10, 15 minutes, and then what an explosive breakout point there when we fought around the Gold Fury and then finally had our first objective go down. That was kind of the turning point of this one, where it seemed like this team play that Captain Tsubasa and his friends had, it was very good, it was very organized, it was very structured, but they weren't really reaping the benefits on the back end of it. And as soon as they pointed their focus toward these objectives, I mean, what else is there to be said for how well they performed in this one? Hati have some shining moments. They definitely looked good on the gods that they picked, but they just weren't careful enough around their advantage states and the disadvantage states of Captain Tsubasa. They can definitely come back in this one. I have no shortage of belief that this could be a 3-game set if they go back to the drawing board and fix some of the issues that they had in game number 1, but just a fantastic game number 1 that we just got to experience.
Yeah, really good fun. Like I said, high action, a lot of just energy, pure passion being played out there. So really fun displays. It was really good to watch. But we will be taking a hopefully very short break as we get set up for game number 2 between Captain Tsubasa and his friends and Hati. Please do not go anywhere, and we will be back very, very soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Smite Night Season 4. So you think you can cast. This game today is Captain Tsubasa and his friends versus Hati. And we're now swapping sides as Kaizo has disappeared. Where's that image gone? Kaizo, no! I can't believe it.
Where did I go?
I don't know. You've
it's
vanished.
It's dark in here. Bring me back.
Hold on. Let me find you. I've
All
lost
the sound of my voice. I'm over here.
Where did it go? I've lost the new picture of you. All right, we've got to go to the old one. All right,
which one? Hang on. Wait. Can this be shown on stream?
I think it's safe to show on stream. I don't know. You're not showing up. That's very strange. But if you haven't noticed, everyone, with me today is Kaizo, as this is part of our round 2 of So You Think You Can Cast. And Kaizo, we saw a very, very fast-paced performance from Captain Tsubasa and his friends. But what did Hati have to do to turn this set around?
Well, I have to be true to at Mifflin TV on Twitter and say that game was a real barn burner, and we were privileged to have the opportunity to watch it. But I think that Hati just need to play more disciplined, man. Like, they had everything going well for them in the start of that game. They had their game plan. They wanted to pressure the Freya. They wanted to invade the red buff, and they sought out and did both of those things. And then they just played undisciplined for the next 5 minutes. And apparently, against Captain Tsubasa and his friends, if you do that, you just lose the game. Like, they did not make more than 3 or 4 more mistakes the rest of the game. So just a little bit more clean. Don't overreact. You know, that wasn't the best game from Hati. I'm not going to pretend like they were flawless, but there were plenty of good things to carry into a game number 2, and they just need to stick to what their strengths were.
Yeah, I'm totally behind that, you know, just stick to the plan and things might work out for you. But we are now coming in to picks and bans for game number 2. And Kaizo, are you surprised to see the Freya banned out? But I have to specify, it has been banned out by Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
That's interesting. That means that they think that this is a top pick worthy god. And Freya, obviously, I mean, we all watched the last game. Very strong, right? Like, that, nobody is going to contest that. I just don't know if I would want her top overall. I mean, I think that, especially with the game you just had, if you don't ban it, Hati will ban it. They do not want to give that to you unless they know for some reason that Albi also has that in the back pocket and they're willing to top pick it. I think that that's a misplay for Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think, you know, almost certainly Hati would have banned it outright, unless they really wanted to top pick it themselves. But, you know, like you say, you're giving up the Freya as your top pick. That leaves a lot open. Notably on the board right now, Lancelot still open, has been quite highly prioritized. We do see the Yu Huang banned out, but Khepri, all right, we saw it previously, but Ratatasker as well. So, I mean, Lancelot's open, and, you know, speak of the devil, and he will come. Lancelot, locked in top pick.
That's crazy to me, because I think that Lancelot is in a tier of his own right now. You can play him in solo. I don't think that's his best role, but he's still better than the other solo laners despite that fact. And if you put him in the jungle, man, you get blink, auto attack, dashed, and you're just dead. Like, he just puts down a giant cripple field, and then maybe I'm just complaining because I'm a mid laner. I know that we love to do that, but there is no counterplay to being blinked on in one shot unless you have lightning fast reflexes. So we'll see just how cat-like Captain Tsubasa and his friends are, because they clearly seem to be very comfortable giving this away. They banned out their own gods, knowing full well that left Lancelot on the table.
Yeah, and, you know, Lancelot picked up. Now we'll have to see what they can do with it. And Lancelot in Smite Night hasn't really had the biggest showing, honestly. There's been a few games where they've shown up and been all right, but I've never really seen them take over a game. But, you know, if there's ever going to be a time, it would be a time like now for Hati. You know, if you take a really big defeat like that, and, you know, surely Hati have already been discussing game number 2, right? When you're losing that badly, you already know you're sure to lose. You start to discuss what you're going to change and what you maybe pick this time. But Morgan Le Fay and Jing Wei coming out from Captain Tsubasa and his friends, it's a very, like, look, it's straightforward, right? Morgan Le Fay's going mid, Jing Wei's going ADC, but that doesn't tell you anything else about the draft. You know, it's very simple. All right, Jing Wei's going to be hoping to go late, but she can still be very strong, and the rest of the gods could be, you know, pretty strong around them. So it's a very nice top 2 to come through. But the top 3 coming out from Hati, I am a really big fan of that.
Yeah, I have to agree there. That is an insane front line to put up for the Order side here. Hadi have drafted something that is, I won't say idiot proof because I said something similar in the previous game, but this is a we are big and we don't die easily and we're going to face roll you kind of composition. Like King Arthur, Lancelot will live forever. Ganesh is always going to be a nuisance, whether he's, for whatever reason, diving if you pick like a Rom or something as your ADC, or if he's sitting in the back line and just peeling off. This is a difficult to kill top 3 that Hati have drafted for themselves. And I mean, Captain Tsubasa and his friends, they have the late game potential from this Jing Wei, and they have the early brawling from this Morgan Le Fay, but they're going to need some big damage coming out, and I'm just still not sold on the Thor, man. I think that this god is just significantly weaker than the other options that you have available to you. But at the end of the day, if it's a comfort pick, then we saw what they did in game number 1. It's hard to argue against them.
Yeah, we have seen Thor kind of just go crazy sometimes. Like we mentioned in the draft for game number 1, Thor does struggle late game, really getting involved in the team fights. If they go, too defensive of a build, they just don't do any damage. If they go a bit too tanky, if they go too aggressive, they just get blown up. And, it's not really a good situation either way for Thor, especially in a Phoenix Siege or a Phoenix Defense. What is that Anvil of Dawn going to do? It's really hard to find a good angle, and even if you do manage to find a good angle, you're surely just dead right after anyway. So, it's hard to criticize it, though, when they did have such a strong game number 1, but Fenrir being hovered over as well. Thor and Fenrir in the same team, Kaizo?
Yeah, that's a very interesting look for me.
Never
and they're
mind.
actually going to consider a Kuzenbo instead. I mean, Fenrir, not my first choice to kill that team, but I guess technically you have options. But I think this Khepri is much more conducive to what this composition does. It is a backline that is annoying as hell to dive. You don't want to dive a Jingwei ever because how are you ever killing her? And Morgan Le Fay has so much good melee range CC that it makes her very difficult to lock down. So I think doubling down on that, drafting this Khepri, giving your Jingwei and Morgan Le Fay even more survivability is definitely the best way to play into the top 3 that they have drafted.
Yeah, even things like not being able to get kills, right? It's not just a shame, if you do look to kill, all right, we're going to kill this Jingwei, you commit a lot to it and you don't get it. All right, it's a shame. But on top of that, you have the mental side of things. If you just can't get any kills, no matter what you try, it can really deflate you. It may make you overextend when you shouldn't, overcommit when you shouldn't, and it can really factor in. But Rama Persephone coming through, definitely not high commitment gods, but goes really well with the other 3 gods they've drafted.
Yeah, I absolutely love this, man. This is a clinic in drafting as far as I'm concerned. You have a giant front line that will never die as they dive. Like, look at what they're diving into. It's difficult to kill a Morgan Le Fay, a Jingwei, a Khepri, but they're not going to kill you back very often. So you pick the Rom for extra damage over the top, very safe on his own, and you pick the Persephone for, again, putting more damage into the backline reliably and making it easier to kill these 3 gods. I think that is the perfect bottom 2 picks that Hati could have drafted here. I don't even care what Captain Tsubasa draft, they got out drafted this time. It's about whether or not they can play on the actual battlefield, but draft phase absolutely goes to Hati. No questions asked.
Yeah, it's... I mean, it's not like a dream composition, right? It's not, if you go into a casual blind pick mode and you just want to pick the best comp you can find, maybe it's not this, but these 5 gods together into the enemy 5 gods, it just looks so good on paper. Like it is, like you said, a masterclass of drafting. It is absolutely fantastic. Normally, this is the point where I would throw it to you and I'd say, which of these drafts do you prefer? But I think we got that one locked down. But if maybe this game was to get a little bit out of control again for Hati, do you think they have the tools to maybe fight back into it a bit better than they did previously?
Now that's a question worth asking because the thing about frontline centered compositions, which this absolutely is, I mean, like I just said, this is a composition that is designed to not die while diving. That is your whole bit. If you get behind to the point that your defense doesn't matter anymore, your hybrid items aren't doing what you need them to do, the enemy team has so much damage online that you can't stay alive during your dive, you are absolutely screwed. You don't really have the tools to fight back into this one because that's what tanks do. They overwhelm you early when you don't have the damage to fight them away, and then later on, you get to kill them. In theory, I mean, you have like choice selections like mitigation build Ratatosker or mitigation build Raven or mitigation build Cthulhu. Are you noticing a common theme here?
Yep. Yep.
Where everything kills you and doesn't die. But that's not what this order side composition does. Hati will have to get to a critical mass before Captain Tsubasa and his friends get the damage online. So you're really looking at Thor to get you to that point where you have the damage to kill the front line. You're pretty much only looking at the solo side of the map, at least as far as the draft is concerned here, for your pressure, for that early presence. Everything else, you're just basically, it's a handoff to the quarterback, or not the quarterback. Am I an idiot? To the running back. And then they take the ball and run with it. The Jingwei Morgan being the running back here. And I realize that isn't even going to land with an EU audience
Nope, not
because
at
that's
all.
hand egg, not football. So there you go. There's my analogy for you.
All right. Well, we will take that analogy and we will throw it, run it. I don't really know, but we're gonna take it. We're gonna touchdown it right into game number 2 between Hati and Captain Tsubasa and his friends. Now, interestingly, Kaizo, both teams opting for opposite mid and jungle starts. Now, these starts sort of result in a very similar effect, but do you have a personal preference between either one?
So you can start everybody, or not everybody, but you can start the mid laner and the jungler at the speed buff. That's kind of your default if you don't really know what you're doing. That gets both of your buffs confirmed, and then you can test wave pressure and try to get neutral farm, and then go back to your own back camps. That's sort of the safer, or not safer, but that's like the standard way of doing it. Then you can go red buff to speed buff, which gets you to lane a little bit a little bit slower, but at that point, your jungler gets the opportunity to do his back camps immediately, can get very active on the solo side of the map, and the mid laner gets solo farm in mid. So there are pros and cons of both, and I think that if you're worried about pressure, you typically go red to speed.
Oh, I think Soap feeling that had a really good opportunity to just strip away all of these small camps from Eddie G, but wasn't really, committed to it. They were considering going for a kill in the solo lane because really low health was Grinkeeper on this Cucullin, so there was definitely a chance to pull that off, but they didn't manage to get it, and they end up wasting a bit of time. They were looking around the corner trying to see if there's anything to be done, and instead they miss out on a lot of farm, and they find themselves a level down to Eddie G, and so feeling Hammer tends to beat Lance, and so feeling gonna have to retreat out with those double dashes, but coming back into lane, it's very tight here, but Alice Antoinette steps forward into Xenphius, who's really low health. A big back and forth engagement for this level 2 and 3 fight.
Wow, that gave me a headache to watch that amid. I did not know what was happening, as now Saria dashes in and gets dashed in response by this Ganesh, but now you have lost all of your mid pressure, so now Eddie G going straight to this red buffer, maybe looking for a kill on Soap Feeling.
Really low health again on the members of Hati, and Alice Antoinette trying to find the extra bit of poke damage. Eddie G, of course, with this Mjolnir's attunement, can just blow up squishy targets if they're getting them double tap, but it's hard to hit at long range without any sort of setup. Soap Feeling going to take a lot of damage from this red buff and has to retreat as Eddie G and Alice Antoinette on scene, but Soap Feeling still aware of the situation, will lurk around Xenphius, slowly make the way over. Soap Feeling blinks in, gets hit by the Sigil, gets hit by the Berserker's Barrage, loses the red buff and loses a lot to start this game, but Xenphius here with the backup of their duo lane, making a very early rotation in. Eddie G gets focused out by the duo as the mids fight it out, but Alice Antoinette takes a very long route, not really focusing a target there. Hati, Alice Antoinette low health, finds a shot through the wall, does Albion, will pick up a kill in response, but that is some hyper aggression yet again.
Yeah, that felt like a fever dream for this last like minute of this game. I don't even know what was happening. I mean, it was very ambitious for Eddie G and Alice Antoinette to go for that red buff to begin with, but for Soap Feeling just flat out went in too early. I mean, you have to. I like to call it understanding the assignment. The assignment there is not defend the red buff. The assignment there is kill the people invading the red buff. You cannot defend the red buff. And he just went in before the help got there, and he was just 1v2, basically. Like, there were people nearby, but nobody close enough to help him. If he just waits a little bit longer, we're in a completely different game state, and they probably get both of those kills.
Yep, it would have been a 4 versus 2, which is much better than a 3 versus 2. But unfortunately for Hati, Soap Feeling will fall down in the dual lane, in the solo lane to Grinkeeper as a bit of action in the dual lane comes down. I'm not really sure what happened there, but it looks like a bit of an overcommitment onto this Cucullin, who, you know, this King Arthur Cucullin matchup in the solo lane, it's, you know, tried and tested, very traditional. We've seen this 1,000 times, but there's for good reason for it. And now, look on the sidelines, Eddie G with the Anvil of Dawn down onto TiLiGB, puts out a lot of damage, but not going to find a lot for it. Like I was saying, King Arthur Cucullin, very standard for good reason. They just do not go down.
Yeah, I like to say you gank yourself on a King Arthur. You don't gank a King Arthur. And now Grinkeeper rotating, but there's going to be that big ultimate from TiLiG, and that's going to send Eddie up. He's very low, and actually a wall is going to keep Grinkeeper away from the kill. Oh, what misfortune.
I bet Grinkeeper is not grinning right this time.
I see what you did.
Yeah, it was a bit of a stretch, but I'm gonna go with it. Yeah, these two solo laners just so difficult to kill. You know, it's really not where either jungler should be focusing their attention. You know, Lancelot, as you mentioned in Picks and Bans, does the best job just getting in and blowing someone up. Who do they blow up? Probably the mid laner. If not the mid laner, probably the ADC. Certainly not the enemy solo laner. So, you know, just need to be a bit more aware of the situation. It does do both sets of junglers, honestly, and need to maybe pick their opportunities just a bit better.
I would have to disagree with you on that, because I don't think that I would really be looking to gank a Ram or a Jingwei, so that's pretty much out of the question.
All right.
And then both of these mid laners, at least early on, the CC that they have is very effective at specifically keeping them alive. Like, you've got Persephone ult, you can just shoot that off at minimum distance, that does a whole lot for you. Hang on, Thor ult onto Xenphius, and that's going to take her beads, and that will take her life as well. Meanwhile, Lancelot ulted in the right camps. He really wants to get in here.
Yeah, really wants to join in the fight, but for an unknown reason, because there's not really much happening anymore. A bit of a kill and a half, of course, coming out for ADG. When you get that pick, and then you also get the purification beads, you know, it just means that there's going to be another opportunity in just a moment's time. But again, Captain Tsubasa and his friends, 3 kills early on. Not quite the 10-kill swing at this point we had in the previous game, but still quite a lot in it. Both dual laners still dueling it out. Olby has to roll away without rolling assault, but Hanu will bide their time, take that little shot. I think what we see there is the movement speed difference between level 7 and level 6. A very minor detail, but it's fine margins in Smite, and paying off for Captain Tsubasa and his friends, who now make a rotation to the enemy blue buff.
Yeah, they're going to invade that one successfully, and now Xenphius caught in no man's land.
Yeah, has get chased down by Eddie G, but TiLiGB providing a little bit of zoning just by being King Arthur. There is Grinkeeper getting lifted up into Excalibur's Wrath. Will leap on out of there, though, and feel quite happy about it. Like I said, Cucullin pretty safe, pretty strong. Alice Antoinette joining in for this rotation as well. A real nemesis trying to take down Totem of Ku. Maybe don't realize the danger they're in. There's the first sigil coming down. A lot of damage onto real nemesis. Pops the magic shell. There's the Dharmic pillars, but gets rooted out. Will fall down to Grinkeeper as TiLiGB can't peel for their support, but a big rotation in as Soap Feeling and Xenphius on the scene. Grinkeeper locked into that grasp of death, but there is the Scarab's Blessing to peel for their solo lane. Grinkeeper does not fall down, but in the sky, coming down is Eddie G, dunking down onto Xenphius. Will pick up a kill for it as well. Captain Tsubasa and his friends fight off the gank as a 4 versus 4 fight in the right-hand lane ends up being 3 kills, going the way of Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
Not to mention the blue buff invade, we're going to see back camps taken away. Speed is up, so we'll see if Eddie G recognizes that, and Unfortunately, will end up taking that one away. So this is disastrous if you're soap feeling. You even get to watch that go down. Oh, that's the worst feeling. There is nothing in this game worse than having your speed buff taken. Maybe getting 4 kills to 0 in the right lane, but now Eddie G caught in no man's land.
Well, already going in with the Ohm, Israel Nemesis, but Saria will abduct them on out of there. Eddie G, Molyneux's attunement through the wall, all be on scene, but not in time. They will get their own red buff, but they cannot punish the very, very obnoxious invade of the speed buff, like you said, right in the face of Soap Feeling. And yeah, right now, this Lancelot just not getting off to the start that we know he's capable of.
Yeah, and this is not looking good either, because I don't know if you've taken a chance to look at the left side of the map as we see here. Hanula, again, 2 levels up on Albi, who will roll in here and try to trade 2v1, but look at that damage return. Albi actually putting out a decent amount here. Will go up into the ult, and the Ganesh ult will actually bestow that one. Shoutouts to the real Nemesis on that one, and it's another fight in right lane.
Grinkeeper juking and diving, gets into the grasp of death, but is trying to hang on out of it. Soap Feeling will pick up this Cucullin. Alice Antoinette swinging at Xemphius. Eddie G falls down, though, and cannot pick up Tilly GB, who will retreat safely. Now Xemphius under a lot of pressure, though. Alice Antoinette does find the kill. Soap Feeling cannot impact this fight enough as Lancelot. How do you let a Morgan Le Fay, only 1 level ahead of you, just walk away?
Just didn't have the damage, man, and that's really what we're looking at here. He's got Crusher, but only a Morningstar under his belt, very behind in farm in addition to levels here, but now Alice Antoinette should have died there, but a little jukey little backstep, the Barra backstep will keep him alive there. This is getting out of hand for Captain Tsubasa. This is not a team that should be running all 3 sides of the map, but they have all the pressure in the world in dual lane, despite it being a relatively nothing matchup. This shouldn't really see a whole bunch of fighting. And both of your brawling solo laners have been fighting all game, and it's just been Grinkeeper coming up on top every time. I mean, Tilly GB has not died, but has not had the same impact in these fights as the 7,700 damage Cucullin has. So you're just running out of places where you can play successfully if you're Hati. You're really looking at the mid, but even that's getting invaded.
Hanula brawling it out, drops the Persistent Gust, but doesn't quite connect with Eddie G on scene. Forces the Astral Barrage to come out. Hanula takes a shot, but won't take too much damage as Eddie G up into the Anvil of Dawn. Very low health, but will he decide to re-engage? Maybe onto Albi. Alice Antoinette spots out Soap Feeling. Eddie G does re-engage, but does not connect. Soap Feeling gives chase, gets stunned out off that horse. Now gets abducted in place. Can they stay alive for just a bit longer? Yes, they can. Alice Antoinette finish off that one. And now, despite the grasp of death being down, Scarab's Blessing comes out, cleanses Alice Antoinette of anything that ails them, but Hanula gets into a really bad spot, somehow flies on out of there, and right now Hati just don't have the damage.
No, they really don't, and Albi's going to roll in and try to put out some of his own here. Hanula turns around and starts returning shots. There's a dash away. They get the shell out of Captain Tsubasa, and they do still want to go for this purple buff invade, but I just don't know if they have the health bars, and they're going to end up leaving this one alone here. It kind of starts, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to call it like I see it. It looks like Hati are starting to play on tilt, or at least Soap Feeling at the very least, because he goes in 1v3 after the back end of that engagement when he knows that Kepri still has the ultimate available. Sorry, just watching Alice Antoinette like a hawk. She did end up getting the Scarab's Blessing. It didn't even proc, and Soap Feeling dies for next to nothing at that point. You have to be better at recognizing when you have your opportunities and taking them only when they're there, because you cannot force these issues from behind, or else it just puts you even further behind. Look how much pressure Captain Tsubasa and his friends have on the map right now. Thor meandering his way into left jungle, Cucullin fighting under the solo tier 1 tower. This is getting ridiculous for Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
Well, Albi burns the Purification Beads, didn't need them, but didn't know that, so does decide to drop that relic just in case. So Eddie G walks over, gets a relic, and walks on out of there. Now Grinkeeper under a little bit of pressure, but Soap Feeling showing up. But it's as you said, right? It's just finding your opportunities, and that's what Eddie G's just done a little bit better. Not perfectly, mind you, but Albi now in a lot of danger. There is the airstrike coming through. Hanula in the sky will land down behind the tier 2 and Phoenix, but Albi fires firing some shots. Mjolnir Zatuma comes through. Hanula low health. Albi finds the shot, gets the kill, and we'll be happy with that. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Zenfius falls down as the mid laners yet again make a rotation all the way over to the solo lane. We're in some sort of laning phase, Kaizo, but I'm not sure that these teams are aware of it.
Lane is the jungle, and they're pretty much the phase is the whole game at this point, as Eddie G will hammer out on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, you guessed it, more fighting in the solo lane. Soap feeling 1 HP, chased down by Grinkeeper with that Solar Blessing on him. That'll return him to the tower, but what can be said for the state of this game other than Captain Tsubasa and his friends have all of the pressure, and they have this very, very scrappy, very fight-oriented early game on both of these games. I thought that it was just game number 1. I thought that it was just a parting fancy, but no, this seems to be their playstyle. And Hati are just getting overwhelmed by how much aggression Captain Tsubasa and his friends are putting on them at all stages of the game. It's like from the word go, they are immediately down to fight to the death.
Yeah, it's just high pace being set out. Zenfius will get away with that flourish, but Saria catches them in the abduct. Magic Shell comes out in the Purification Beast, but the Anvil of Dawn on the head of Zenfius might escape. No, they will not. Mjolnir Zatuma catches on the back end as Real Nemesis gets stunned out. Soap feeling trying to find some damage onto Alice Antoinette, but it is not enough from this Lancelot. Try as they might, they haven't had any real opportunity into this game, and Captain Tsubasa don't seem in any mood to be giving them one.
And I will say, for as poorly as this game number 2 is going for Hati, Albi's still staying relevant in the duo lane, still equal in items, equal in level to Hanula, despite the fact that this is happening on the left side of the map and there's constant fighting in right lane. They're still finding all of the farm that they need to, even when we have these weird 3- and 4-man rotations to the side lanes. You still have a lane that is capable of fighting, but you need to get your ADC to the point that their build and their damage is relevant. This Asi, this Ichival, it is very good at fighting in the 1v1, but it does not do a whole lot of team fight damage. You need an Executioner, you need a Kinsai, you need an Oboe. There's so much more that Albi needs to get online, so going to have to continue to find some way to pick up all of this farm that otherwise would be going to the wayside if he gets sucked into some of these fights. I mean, he has gotten 3 last hits until this point, but you need to continue to pick up the pace because your team really needs you in this one.
Grinkeeper gets tagged by the Godamic Pillars. There's a Grasp of Death. A lot of damage onto this Cucullin. Being silenced out. There's Excalibur's Wrath to slam down this Cucullin. But they're still alive, still relevant. Zenfius takes too much damage from Alice Antoinette. Finally will fall down. Will this Cucullin? But Alice Antoinette and this Morgan Le Fay. 4 kills, of course. A very, very healthy amount of gold in their pocket. Have been doing really, really well as these team fights have been starting out. And trading 1 for 1 in a situation like that is fantastic for Captain Tsubasa. Eddie G lurking around the sidelines. Had a feeling they might go for an Anvil of Dawn, but decide to pocket that ability for this next engagement.
Yeah, Hati seem very aware that Eddie G is lurking in the wings and always ready to dunk on in, and that's what you need your Thor. You need the threat of activation from the Thor. It's not always the damage it does. It's the idea of, if we do this, then Thor ult. So now Soapfeelin's going to see a little bit of, if we do this, we'll see if we get the Thor ult on top of it. There's an Aegis actually potentially fat-fingered. Here's the Thor ult.
There comes the Thor ult in the sky. Will not connect with Soapfeelin, and Mjolnir Zatuma out of there. That Thor still a bit of a slippery devil. Despite dunking all the way in, will slide on out of there, but might get caught by Real Nemesis. Does stop the dash so perfectly with that Tectonic Rift, and now we'll come away with a good feeling. And if you're Eddie G, you got to be feeling yourself at this point. Just having a ton of fun on this Thor and Ratatoskr from game number 1.
Yeah, man, I badmouthed both of the picks, and I'm not going to try to cover that up. I mean, I don't think that Ratatoskr has a home in the jungle right now, but he definitely seemed to look like it. And now Eddie G on the Thor, which I think is a bottom-tier god, mid-tier at best, making it look like this is one of the best gods in the game, specifically against what I consider to be the best god in the game, at least for the jungle role. So very well played from Eddie G, and Captain Tsubasa and his friends playing very well around that global or semi-global rotation potential. And also credit where it's due to Alice Antoinette very effectively baiting out her health bar, as now Soapfeelin potentially baited in a little bit here. Eddie G hammers in and goes up into the Anvil down once more.
Dunk right down onto Soapfeelin, dead before you can even blink. as Real Nemesis spots out. Has to just watch as their jungler falls down. TiLiGB walking forward in the middle lane, somewhat inexplicably, will get peeled away with those Dharmic pillars, but Eddie G back forward. Berserker's Barrage Tectonic Rift is enough to give Grinkeeper the kill, as Real Nemesis now being barreled down in this middle lane. Hanula finding a lot of shots with those explosive bolts as Grinkeeper zones away the mid laner for Hati, but Xemphius gets a lot of damage onto Grinkeeper. Very low health is this Kukulin, but Hanula says, screw that! Grinkeeper stays alive and Xemphius falls down. Mid lane tier 2, low health. Left side tier 1 will fall down in favor of Hati, but they lose just so much for it. Going to pressure this tier 2 maybe to force back the rest of Captain Tsubasa and his friends, but another fight swings the way of Captain Tsubasa and his friends, and that just means the gold and experience, the difference continues to fall.
And it's not every game that you can say this, but I do think that the graphs tell the story of this one, where we had fights early, it was messy, it wasn't completely clear, it could at least go either way, and then it's just been a steady grip tightening from Captain Tsubasa and his friends. They actually dropped the Gold Fury briefly, but that should still go down in their favor. Eventually, there we go, I was afraid Saria might die, but this is exactly the same story as game number 1. They fight a lot, they fight early. Grinkeeper should die on screen here as I'm analyzing this, but they continue to fight everywhere, all across the map, and just overwhelm with pressure with these weird fights that you're not accustomed to taking, and then find some way to get their farm in addition to, and this is taking so much longer than I really thought that it would. Grinkeeper surely doesn't live through this. He gets the second ult off and will eventually, finally fall, but now Eddie's going in.
Eddie G, Anvil of Dawn out of 2, TiLiGB and Real Nemesis just the front line getting stunned out, but Albie takes a ton of damage. TiLiGB zoning away this aggressive jungler. They opted to go for the kill on the Kukulin instead of the Pyromancer. I think the Pyromancer was easy to take, and it would have certainly been more worthwhile.
Fire Giant would have been easier.
Fire Giant might have been... Hell, just go for the Titan at that point. It took so long. May as well have just ended the game, but Pyromancer now being done by Captain Tsubasa and his friends. Slowly, it has to be said, as in the left-hand side of the map, Hanula split pushing into the tier 2, but the Pyromancer still goes the way of Captain Tsubasa and his friends, and Hati just don't seem to be making the right calls at the right time right now, I think is the best way to say it.
Yeah, and it's so hard to make these decisions under pressure, though, because it's not like you have every opportunity available to you. You're only playing the game when Captain Tsubasa and his friends say you can play the game. Even your red buff is not safe, even 20 minutes into the game as 4 people are here.
In the sky again with the Anvil of Dawn as Eddie G might just be out of range. No, he's not. Dunk's right on top of Soapfield, but gets low, walks through the damning pillars. Magic Shelter Peel, but there's the Astral Barrage, and Xemphius will take down this Thor. Thor can fall down, it seems. But now Alice Antoinette and Sari here. It's 2 versus 3. But Captain Tsubasa more than happy to take this fight. Alice Antoinette puts out a lot of damage. I'll be here, though. Has had a relatively easy farm of it. Will deal out some damage, but Hanula shows up. Jumping into this fight is the Jingwei. Firing shot after shot onto Real Nemesis. Albie gets the shutdown. Real Nemesis should fall down to Hanula. A bit of fight back for Hati, but it still goes the way of Tsubasa and his friends.
Yeah, Hanula, tell me if you've seen this one before. Chasing down Albie on the ROM. Now ulting after. No Kepri ult available, but we'll dive anyway. Trades under the Phoenix for the triple kill. And that's just Hanula, man. Has shown out and shown up both games in this set so far.
Yeah, has the Wind Demon and Venom Deathbringer online, knows that they can just get away with whatever they want on Jingwei right now. Not a lot of punishment coming through Soapfield and on this Lancelot, you know. That's what you'd be hoping would be the main difference between the ADCs. You know, can you dive the opposing backline better than the enemy junglers diving yours? Sometimes Smite is just as simple as that. And right now, Eddie G is winning this jungle battle. Thor having so much of an impact on the map constantly, right? Ever since level 5. That Anvil of Dawn has very rarely been off cooldown, just using it at every opportunity, and it's really paying off for Captain Tsubasa and his friends.
Nemesis going to dash over here. There's the Ganesh ult, but Hanula going to have to be careful. Very low here. Turn of Fate almost takes the life, but Eddie G will instead take the life of TiLiGB, and now a siege from Captain Tsubasa.
Yeah, sieging up at this right side tier 2, already with 1 member down. Our Hati. Hanula baits with a back to then leap over that Grasp of Death. Greenkeeper with another double root. I feel like they've been nailing it as Alice Antoinette kills off Soap Feeling somewhere near their own tier 1 tower. And I'm not really sure what Soap Feeling was doing over there because there's really no opportunity for there to be a pick for you. But Eddie G still lurking around. Finds an angle onto Xemphius. Will put out a decent amount of damage, but we'll have to retreat though because no Mjolnir's attunement available. Can Albie find the shots? They get the slow. They activate a bit more damage. They're firing shots into Eddie G's back, but the Mjolnir's attunement away. Astral Barrage in the sky. Misses the first, misses the second. Can't find the third. Real Nemesis can't zone for any longer as Xemphius tries to get the steal onto the Fire Giant. Does not succeed. Eddie G back in the sky. Anvil of Dawn coming down onto all the members of Hati. There is Xemphius being chased down. Berserker's Barrage cleans that up. Real Nemesis falls down to Hanula. Hati are bleeding kills left, right, center, and upside down right now.
Yeah, and it looks bad when Xemphius steps up and doesn't get that kill, but that is your only play on Hati right now, is to desperately try to coin flip a Fire Giant steal, if that, maybe even lower odds, and see if you can just hang on a little bit longer in this game, because currently Captain Tsubasa and his friends have mounted a steamroller and are just plowing over the top of all of Hati.
All diving under the Phoenix now. Albie under some more pressure from Grinkeeper, who's about to transform, and Hanula follows in with their extra speed gain from Jingwei. Now Tilly GB chased into the Titan room. Soap Feeling though on horseback onto Hanula, still under the Phoenix. And Grinkeeper will be taking some shots up. Soap Feeling falls down. Dynamic Pillars come out. Nice Grasp of Death from downtown onto Saria. But there's Hanula dashing forward yet again onto Tilly GB. You're not meant to win that fight against the solo laner, Hanula, but Hanula does not care. Finding more and more shots. There's the airstrike over the wall into the fountain almost as Alice Antoinette picks up Albie as well. The Phoenix still has not gone down on this right side. The base not yet broken, but it's all but done.
Yeah, base not broken, but spirit certainly broken for Hati. They looked like they had a chance to fight back in game number 1, even some bright spots in game number 2, but this has just been a absolute slaughter from Captain Tsubasa and his friends in this second game. Hanula is doing whatever they want on this Jingwei, quite literally ulting into the fountain in order to chase down kills. Grinkeeper has looked absolutely immortal on this Cucullin. There isn't a whole lot you can ask for from these players individually that they have not already shown in this game.
Hanula looking to pad those stats just a touch as Xemphius gets a nice Grasp of Death onto Saria yet again, but the Scarab's Blessing will keep them alive. Xemphius gets away with the smallest amount of HP. Anvil of Dawn yet in the sky for Eddie G. Where will they choose to dunk down? Take their time, pick their spot, get the kill on the Tilly GB. Does Alice Antoinette. Xemphius again retreating into base with that flourish. Hanula just firing shots. Saria finally goes down. A lot of chaotic fighting going on at this Titan room, and I'm not sure that's the best way forward for Captain Tsubasa and his friends. Titan's still quite healthy. Xemphius healthy enough as well. Real Nemesis zones away Hanula, and Captain Tsubasa, despite taking 2 Phoenixes and making a push to the Titan room, will have to retreat.
Yeah, they'll have to retreat, but no wounds to be licked. I mean, they are pretty much all 5 members strong. Oh wait, Kepri died. I mean, not that they really need him when they can still do this in the Titan room. It doesn't quite matter. Hanula goes for the second kill. Albie will fall. Eddie G dies to a tower, apparently. I mean, what is going on in this?
Ah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Hanula is divine. Picking up a double kill. Now the Titan under more and more pressure. It's Tilly GB and Soap Feeling on the scene. Titan, though, has a lot of fire minions to contend with. Hanula dashes forward, gets that persistent gust onto Soap Feeling, almost takes them out before they hit the ground. But Alice Antoinette will sweep up that kill. Titan now half health. Another wave of fire minions pours in. Tilly GB doesn't have the damage to deal with so many members of Captain Tsubasa and his friends. Titan low health, standing in the persistent gust. Deicide coming through from Grinkeeper. The Titan falls down. Captain Tsubasa and his friends take away a very, very clean 2-0 victory.
Yeah, and clean is maybe not the operative word. That was a grimy street fight of a game of Smite that we just watched, where from the very offset, this was clearly not going to be a polite, oh, I'm going to go farm my back camps sort of game. This is a, oh, you're going for red buff? What if four of my boys pulled up at that red buff? This was a brutal game for both sides, and it just seems like Captain Tsubasa and his friends are much more capable of taking the punches as they deal them out than Hati were. I think that this aggressive, very fast-paced play style kind of caught Hati off guard.
Yeah, and I mean, why wouldn't it? You know, it was so high octane. If you're not prepared, if you're just kind of coming into this, we did discuss that this was Hati's first game of the season being played. Maybe they're just not up to the pace. You know, they weren't prepared for what might be coming in. You know, there's a saying in real life physical sports, which does exist outside of the internet. Well, you call it match fitness. You know, like if you're in the zone playing games regularly, you are just on another level than usual. But, maybe Hati just didn't quite have that game fitness. You wonder, have they been practicing enough? Have they maybe just sort of picked themselves up to get going? And, time will tell. Hati can still improve from this position. This will just have to be one that you chalk off, but was just a really, really good performance from Captain Tsubasa and his friends. You cannot take that away from them.
And what a, I already used the word brutal, but that's just about the best word that I can use to sum this up. What a brutal introduction to the league this was, because I guarantee you, I haven't watched every game of Smite Night that's been played, but I highly doubt that every single one of them is this much fighting from minute number one. I think that against most teams, you get the opportunity to at least get your feet set, take a deep breath, maybe
Yep.
do some stretches, and then go into the fight to the death. But that is absolutely not an option when you fight against Captain Tsubasa and his friends. And their team play in this game continued to impress me. I think that they are definitely going places, and a lot of shining moments from Hati where you can tell that they have the potential and they just need to work on the execution. I don't think that this should be a disheartening performance. I think that you just write this up to, man, we were not ready for this. And then you go back into your team chat, you analyze the VOD, and you come up with a plan for this kind of play style, and then you come back and you smack them in the next set for playing the way that they are.
Yeah, you just have to take it on the chin sometimes and then try to turn it around from there. But that is the end of the game, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Of course, I have been JudasPriestley with Kaizo joining me today as chair number 2. But if you have missed it, of course, this is round 2 of So You Think You Can Cast. This is both mine and Kaizo's entry. I believe that means that King Scuba will be joining us for a little bit of post-game coaching.
Not much to coach, I ain't gonna lie.
I
Didn't
like
see
that.
much.
That is good initial feedback. We like the way that sounds.
It's a good start,
Yeah, I didn't see much. Again, I'm a viewer. I'm gonna turn it over to hopefully Frog, maybe Spooky, to do a post eval that the viewers won't get to see, unfortunately, unless they go to his channel.
A little deep
And
dive.
I'll let him tear you up, Kaizo.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As much as I love to be put on a platter by King Scuba himself, the bell end that we all know and love, I do enjoy getting some feedback from Mr. Frogert and Spooky Mars, so I'll be looking forward to that one as well.
I think they have way more valuable feedback than I can give you. So yeah, not much I can say. To the audience, I have posted a Google form. If you fill that out, you get a chance at a couple Smite codes, $50 US. Just tells the coaching team what you thought of the 2 contestants tonight. A little special note: Judas wasn't only our chair 1; he was also your cameraman and production. So he
Oh
was.
yeah, and I'm gonna jump in here and I'm gonna completely cut you off and say, what a phenomenal job you did, Judas. Like I was going to say this off cast, but if you're gonna give the opportunity, the fact that you were able to both competently run the camera to the point that I forgot that you were doing it while casting, and also provide entertaining casting and very engaging discussion about the game, I am beyond impressed. And this is the first time for those viewing at home that I've had the chance to work with Mr. Judas Priestley. I will certainly be looking forward to the next time as well because I think that this guy knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so just a little bit of BS in session now for the audience. We'll talk a little bit about we'll talk a little bit more about skills for casting, production, all that stuff. A little bit more on the back end. So quick question: this was a European game, wasn't it?
In the literal sense, but in the way that it turned out, absolutely not.
Or are you saying it's
Yeah,
not
it's like,
refined enough to be a European game?
It's not very often, and by very often I mean ever, that I have seen more kills than minutes in the game when you extend past like 15 minutes. That was a bit
That's
crazy.
very true.
Yeah, it was an absolute slugfest this whole time. So that was interesting. So let's say, what do you guys prefer to cast? The games like that or the more European style games? I'm curious. Judas, it's like Kaizo too. You're European too, aren't you?
Oh yeah, totally.
Is this a breath of fresh air to you, or do you prefer the more NA versions of Smite, like what we had tonight?
So here's the thing. These are the much more entertaining games to me to watch as a viewer, but I absolutely prefer to cast the longer form, slower games because as cool as it is to watch all of the action on the screen at all times, I think that you get so much more out of a game of Smite than just what's going on the screen. If you get the opportunity to talk about what's going on behind the scenes, the macro gameplay, the things that would go unsaid. And when you have such a fast paced game as this one, when everything is taking place all at once, you've got fighting in the dual lane, fighting in the solo lane, fighting at the red buff, fighting in the towers. You don't really get a chance to dig deeper into. I couldn't even talk about builds that game without there
No.
just being an immediate influx of fighting. So for me, definitely viewing this kind of game, but casting, it's got to be something longer and a little bit slower. So you can take a deep breath and then maybe like make hide or tail of what's actually taking place in the game.
Yeah.
For sure. How about you, Judas?
I've got to say, I do exactly agree. Now, you might find that a bit shocking, especially coming from a Chair 1, right? Because Chair 1 basically gets all the time.
Yeah.
But as a Chair 1, I'm still a fan of Smite. I still enjoy the tactical side of things, how teams are farming more efficiently, what builds are they looking for, what are they looking for at the end. And more specifically, as a Chair 1 point of view, the big moments come from tense posturing. Some of the best fights you'll ever get to cast and watch come from Fire Giant dances. And that's why Fire Giant dances are still in the game. That's something that the game is catered around. It means 5 versus 5 at the Fire Giant pit. Whoever blinks first, and it can all just completely erupt from there. And those are always the best moments, when you see these fights sort of burst out and then, back and forth, really good fun to cast them. And when it's kind of chaotic and action-packed, it's hard to get a scope of everything, whereas when it's more confined and a bit more systematic in the way that teams like literally tear each other apart, it can be really good fun to cast that way as well. Not to say that a good old action-packed arena game in mid lane isn't fun from time to time. It's really refreshing to see and is definitely a difference. I would say the truly best moments of Smite come from slow, tense posturing and then big explosions of action.
Absolutely agree. Very well said.
Nah, not a question for you. So, in case the viewers missed it, this is So You Think You Can Cast. Basically, we are trying to find who is the best amateur caster. Winners will take home $200 each. And they get a little special prize, which I'm not going to say. But the casters will probably like it a hell of a lot more than the cash prize. Have you picked up any, have you refined your skills since this started? Would you say you picked up better habits or anything like that, or gotten better?
Absolutely.
And if so, what?
So, okay, I can be very specific with this because I have done, I think, like 20 casts since my round 1 game because I had not a lot of criticism, which I was quite happy with, but I had a very, very specific one, which I did hear a couple of other casters get, but this was very specific to me, and that was I would take a team fight, right? There'd be a team fight going on. I'm Chair 1, right? That's my job. I do the team fight. Then I'd analyze what happened in the team fight. I'd start analyzing what happened next. And then a fight would start again. And then I keep going. Whoa, there's a fight. I've got to take the fight. I'm Chair 1. Whereas I really had to get out of that habit, which I built off of a lot of solo casting, how I started out, and for the first few months, I was just solo casting, where you do the fight, you talk about the analyze, and then you do the fight again. That's a bad habit. Whereas since then, I've refused to do solo cast, and actually specifically only doing duo casts, where I can hand off to my chair 2, and I will take a fight, and maybe sometimes I don't do it perfectly, I'm still working on it, but I would take a fight, give a little bit afterwards to sum it up, and then hand it off. And sometimes it goes wrong. Sometimes you hand it off. It happened in game 2 there. I handed it back to Kaizo. All of a sudden, 3 more kills happened because the fight came back in. But that's okay, because you got to trust in your chair 2, like Kaizo was able to do today. Trust them to take the fight, take it like a chair 1 would, and then hand it back to you when it's needed. And you need to be more flexible. And that's something that I took really, really close to me. I thought, right, I need to definitely improve that for my round 2. And I do feel like it worked out a lot better for me.
How about you, Kaizo?
Well, anybody who's heard me cast before probably knows how long-winded I am, so that's something that I'm trying to work on, is not holding the mic on at least one concept for too terribly long. That's something that I've always struggled with, because I'm incredibly passionate about the game, and I do feel like I understand it a lot, and it's like you just want to word vomit all of your information onto the audience, but that's not what the audience wants to hear. So trying to rein that in is something that I've worked on. That's feedback that Frog gave me in round number 1, is try to analyze things that are relevant to the game and in a shorter period of time, so that you're not holding on to the mic too long. And then the other thing that I'm working on is like trying to focus more on the macro as opposed to the micro, because I have a tendency to like do team fight analysis until the next team fight. And if you do that, then you don't really get to talk about the bigger steps of the game, what's actually happening behind the scenes, all the good stuff that I said that I wanted in a longer game of Smite. So that is tremendously difficult in a game like this, I might add, just because of how much fighting there was. But I think that behind the scenes, like not specifically in this game, but after getting that feedback, the cast that I've done since then, I've been trying my best to work on doing things on a larger scale as opposed to just focusing on what's in front of the camera at all times. So that's definitely something that I'm continuing to work on, and didn't get a whole lot of chance to do that in this game, because by God did they put out an entertaining and action-packed set, but that's definitely my number 1.
Right on. So I want to kind of circle back to what was said earlier, where just for the viewers who might not know, Chair 1's the hype man. He's the play-by-play typically. Chair 2 is the analyzer. He gives you the deep analysis, the metas, the theory crafting, all that fun crap. Do you feel that having Chair 1 and Chair 2 with specific roles is good, or do you think personally, I think at the higher level of Smite casting, they're kind of both, but I feel that there's still little emphasis on Chair 2 wanting to be more analysis versus Chair 1 wanting to be more specific. Do you think that it's makes for a much stronger caster if you're doing both, or do you think there should be a little bit of a blend, like what happened with Kaizo taking a little bit of that second fight, then spitting it back to you and analyzing and everything? What do you think?
I think if you want to, so obviously this is a casting competition with, it certainly had some new people in as well to really boost up the scene, and I do always want to be encouraging of new casters. Let me lay that out there first. If you want to get into casting, do not be afraid. Jump in. It is great fun. However, if you want to get anywhere as a caster, you absolutely need to be able to do both. Now, you don't need to be as strong at both. Me, myself, I would say a pretty strong Chair 1. My Chair 2 is not that strong. But I need to be able to contribute with some analysis, at least at some times. Some games, especially in EU, you go a lot of time without some fighting, without a lot of action to call. You need to be able to take a point, take some analysis of it, even if you are just making a point to then bring it to the Chair 2. You still need to know what questions need to be asked You know, what do people want to hear? What does your chair 2 want to talk about? You need to be aware of that. So, especially, and you see this with the SPL cast as well, they almost fluidly chair 1 and chair 2. It's almost like chair 3ing. Like they can just do both at any time, and that's a massively important skill. But I do sometimes do chair 2 casts, and I always know that my analysis is nowhere near as good as some of the other guys. You know, like Kaizo, I cast with Zats a lot as well. Even DJ tops me on chair 2. His analysis is great too. And when you realize that maybe I'm not as good at analysis, but that doesn't mean you can just pass it off all the time, you know? And the same goes for chair 2. If you can't take a fight, if you cannot hold anything, if you don't know any ability names, if you can't call any action and follow it, then your chair 1 can't trust you to hand it off, and it means they have to hold onto the mic, hang onto it, and it just makes it for a lower quality cast. Now, as I said, anyone can and should get into casting if they're interested, but to make for a higher quality cast, you absolutely need to be this sort of chair 3 that I was talking about, where you need to be able to do both sides of it as at least to the best of your ability.
How about you, Kaizo?
Yeah, I mean, when he puts it that artfully and that masterfully, how am I supposed to
try me
argue against that? I mean, fortunately, I do absolutely agree with what you're saying, and I don't have to try to argue against that perfectly put point. But I think you're totally right. If you try to keep yourselves into only the 2 jobs, then it feels very rigid and it's very difficult to get a game flow going, and it feels sort of like transactional between the 2 casters if you don't allow each person to do the other person's job a little bit. Like when I try to work with new casters and when I'm training new people, I tell them, remember, you are a team. Like, you are not here by yourself. Your job is to A, make it an entertaining experience for the audience, and B, make your caster look good. Like, your co-caster look good. I think that should come before part C, make yourself look good. Because if you're only trying to make yourself look good, there's infinite ways you could do that, but that doesn't make it fun for the audience. Like, you could sit there and take all of the cool stuff and just leave only the boring stuff for the other person to talk about, and then what have you done? You've just reduced the cast to you trying to have some kind of ego. I think that it absolutely functions the best when you have both people kind of fluidly moving in and out, working together, juggling the team fights. Like, the best way that I can give an example would be when Finch, RIP, and Aggro would cast together. They would pick up a fight, talk about the fight for the first 10-15 seconds that it's taking place, and then if it keeps going, pass it off to the other person, typically Aggro, because Finch was, I think, rarely ever, if at all, chair 2. And Aggro would give the perfect transition sentence to accept that pitch and then immediately hand it back off. Like, blah, 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 team fight is happening, Finch finishes talking, Aggro mentions one thing that's taking place or highlights one part of the fight, and that is the perfect time for Finch to take a breath and then continue casting the rest of the fight. Because everybody doesn't have Superman lungs where they can just cast it all the way through. You have to understand what your caster's weaknesses are and try to do your best to iron them out by using your strengths. So I personally believe that I am at least a competent chair 1. I used to do it a little bit. So I will try to, if I'm analyzing and a fight starts up, analyze or cast a little bit of the team fight, then hand it off as soon as there's a good opportunity to do that. I do that every single game as often as possible, because just trying to say, hold that thought, cut yourself short, or wait for your chair 1 to interrupt you, it doesn't feel as refined. It feels a little bit more sloppy. So I try to make everything look as respectable and as formal as possible.
Right on. Yeah,
There's that whole long-winded thing that I was talking about.
I think I have much more to ask you guys tonight. I'm gonna say bang up job for the people who want to follow this competition. There's not going to be one next week. We are probably going to be on break while I do the voting process and the scheduling. But if you want to continue on when we start up round 3, head over to the official Discord and go ahead and sign up for event or the amateur role. You'll get a ping from me when we start back up. But this concludes round 2. This is the finals. We had 8 come in. We're having 4 go on.
Scary, dude.
Yeah, cutting down by half is a little bit scary, but you got to put like it's an American Idol thing. Just everybody put all your faith in the viewers, and I'm sure that whatever the best outcome is will pop up. And I have no shortage of belief that we'll see you in round number 3.
Hopefully. Me and the coaches have some head thunking to do because it's been stiff this round.
Yeah.
There's only been 1 or 2 people who didn't make the cut.
Yeah, well, I
Everybody else,
like
we're
it
gonna
stiff,
have to be sitting
Scuba.
here going like, "Dang it!"
That's the thing that you don't understand about me. I always like it stiff.
Is that what she said, or is that what you said?
I think
That's
that's
what
just
I
what
said.
Kaiser
That's
said,
just
yeah.
like I like a stiff competition. I like when it's very close. I don't want it to be a blowout. Why? What did you think I meant?
My mind's always perpetually in the gutter, so have fun with that.
Mm.
Yeah. And with that, everybody, I think we'll wrap it up here tonight. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this content, make sure to follow, subscribe, and keep on getting after that Smite Night action, courtesy of Judas and his team.
Yeah, of course, this is the Smite Night League. If you're not aware what you're watching, I always say it is the best place to watch, talk, and play Smite. Just dropped a link for the Discord in the chat. Please join in. You can sign up. You can join in for a team. You can make your own team and wait until our next season begins for signups. But it's above all the best place where you can come in, tune in, watch some more games. I promise you, we have the best amateur Smite in the world right now. It is absolutely popping off in here. So please jump in. You will not regret it. Thank you to Kaizo joining me as my chair to today. And thank you for King Scuba for setting all of this up for us. But I will be heading us all off today. But hopefully, see you all again soon.